Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Diplomatic Enclave. I'm your host Omar Khalid. But many things bridge communities, nations, countries and continents together. Whether it be geopolitics, whether it be economy, whether it be culture, whether it be the people and tourism. Now we cannot disregard tourism. We have a World Tourism Day that is held every year. In fact, for this very purpose, to let people of the world know that when they visit different areas of the world, they somehow take a part of their culture, a part of their traditions, a part of their personality, a part of their nation to that other country and somehow bridge their country with the country that they visit. Our emphasis in this show is going to be on tourism, and we have the privilege of having a Canadian lady with us who's been, and I repeat, to 190 countries so far. This is a record for whoever I have talked to or interviewed previously in my shows on Diplomatic Enclave. I did a 3-part series last year as well with tourists in the north of Pakistan, but this for me is a record. The lady is called Denise Kowalski and she's right next to me. Denise, thank you very much to have given us the time and welcome to Diplomatic Enclave.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
All right, Denise, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that you worked at the post office for 37 years, 7 months and 3 days. Tell us about your experience and when did you get that inkling to move towards being a tourist?
Actually, it started when I was quite young to become a tourist or a traveler. I'm more of a traveler than a tourist, as I say to people, because I find with tourists, they tend to stay in better places than a traveler does, because my budget doesn't allow me to do as good as some tourists do. But what gave me the incentive was my grandfather, my mother's father, and he's from Bermuda. My mother was from Bermuda and emigrated to Canada and met my dad after 1 month, fell in love and married, and there were 6 children in the family. I'm number 3. I would write my grandfather when I was quite young, wanting to know about his travels because he'd been a sailor. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be like Grandpa, I'm going to go everywhere. So the first time I saw my grandfather, I was 18 years old, and I was just so in love with my grandfather. The stories he would tell me were just awesome. I said, Grandpa, I'm hoping I'm going to be just like you and go everywhere. And Bermuda was actually my second place to visit outside of Canada at that time, because I traveled extensively across Canada when I was young, and also different places in the US with my dad and mom. And us kids, when we were young, we'd do a lot of camping, and I love outdoors. So Grandpa told me many of his adventures, and I thought, I've got to do this. I'm going to do it. And I said to him, Grandpa, I think, he said, I know you're going to do it, and you're going to surpass me with your travels. I said, Grandpa, I hope so. It turned out he was right. There was 36 grandchildren that he had, and I was the one that he
passed on his knowledge to, and somehow passed on his experience as a traveler, not as a tourist, to you. How old were you when you visited your first place outside of your country?
I was 18, and no, I was younger, sorry. I was about 10 when we first went to the United States. Dad took us on a long weekend camping. And then when I went on my own, I was 18, and I went to Bermuda. And I was, oh, that place is so beautiful. You would love it.
Tell us some enchanting places to visit once you're in Bermuda.
The beaches. There's no other beach like it in the world. Pink coral sand beaches. And another thing that's so interesting about the island that you find nowhere else in the world are the houses. The houses have the most beautiful colors and pastels. And every single house has a white roof that's done in a certain type of material that catches the rainwater. They're all white, and then the rain falls, and underneath the house is where the water is kept, and it's drinking water used for cooking everything, and it's pure, clean rainwater. And whoever invented this system, my hat's off to them, because only Bermuda has this and nowhere else in the world. So it looks so beautiful when you're flying in and you see all these beautiful white roofs with all these gorgeous little houses painted in all different colors, green, purple, pink.
I mean, that's an excellent idea. I hope other countries follow suit with this white roof and conservation of water.
That's what I'm hoping too. And I'm kind of surprised other countries haven't. But Bermuda is unique for that.
All right.
Yes.
So tell me, why work at the post office?
I was 18 when I started in the post office. Before I was in the post office, I worked quite hard in my life. Our family, we came from a poor family. My father was a professional engineer, and he taught college after working in many different pulp and paper industries. And he preferred teaching. And then my mother, when we were 13, she went back to university and got her teaching degree and then taught part-time. She taught every single high school in the city of Toronto. And I spent my teenage years there, but I didn't like Toronto much. I preferred the West, because when I was 10, my dad had a job working in the pulp and paper mill on the Sunshine Coast in British Columbia, which is one of our most beautiful provinces for the scenery. So when I was old enough, I moved back to British Columbia, and I've been there ever since. And my family are still in the province of Ontario.
All right. Tell us a little bit about British Columbia. Once one goes to that area, what should one expect? And how are the people? How is the food? What are the places one should go to?
I've camped in many campgrounds in British Columbia. Camping is excellent. The best thing that we have, and number one in the world, is the ski resort, Whistler. Many, many tourists go to Whistler, and it is one of the most beautiful drives in the world to drive. I just had the pleasure of taking this young girl from Germany up there. I toured her all around Canada for almost 2 weeks, and she also came down to New York with me. And then I flew back to Germany with her, because she had to come on the air ticket with me, because I gave her the opportunity of flying with me and enjoying the summertime in Canada for a couple of weeks. And it was her first time to North America and her first time out of Europe. So it was exciting for her, and she really enjoyed herself. One place that everybody likes to see is Niagara Falls. I've probably been there 20 times because I've taken many of my friends who've wanted to visit, and it's beautiful.
I've heard that there's a place in the Niagara Falls that you can go right under the Niagara Falls.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It's a boat. I remember doing it when I was a young girl with my dad, and I was so happy. It's called the Maid of the Mist, the boat, and it takes you right under the falls, and you can, the scenery is so beautiful to see underneath, you know, and the colors. And especially if it's, you know, a beautiful day, then it's even more perfect. And I actually captured some nice pictures that I let my friend go and do the tour, because I said there's really not enough time for us. So you go do it. I says, I've done it enough. So she went, and she said it was well worth doing the tour. So it was great for her. And the weather was perfect.
All right. The weather needs to be perfect as well if you want to visit a place.
Yes.
Denise, I see that you help other tourists from across the world come and visit British Columbia. Somebody must have helped you as well when you began as a tourist. Do you recall such experiences?
I've been very lucky in my travels, and I've had many people try and help me along the way. And especially when you travel by yourself, and as a lady, I feel very happy that, you know, that I am a lady, because I feel that I have more luck than a guy who's traveling by himself.
And what are the advantages that you have had as a lady compared to a guy?
People, especially families, will take a little more compassion on you when you're on a bus, thinking, oh, she's all by herself. And many of these places that I went, they'd never even seen a white person or a foreigner before. In some of the countries I visited, like Ethiopia, for instance, I went into villages that no white person ever stepped into. So it was quite interesting to see the reaction of everybody.
All right. Tell us a little bit about Ethiopia now that you've mentioned it, and you've said that nobody from the West has really gone to Ethiopia, and people were amazed in the small villages of Ethiopia. Tell us your experience about Ethiopia.
It's actually my favorite country in Africa. Yeah. There's 83 different tribes, so each tribe is very different. And how I the first time I went, I ended up making friends with the air stewardess on the airplane.
How old were you then?
That time, I think I was in my 30s on that trip.
All right.
The first time I went, because I've been 4 times to Ethiopia.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm intending maybe, you know, in January, heading back again. Because one of my friends, who I haven't seen for quite a while, I helped him also, that was a student. His dream was to see his country. So I made his dream come true, and I paid all his expenses.
Oh, that's very sweet
Yes.
of you.
See, when I was delivering the mail too, the customers were very, very nice to me. But I loved my job, so I made sure I did not 100%, 150% for delivering and everything. So at Christmas, they would bestow a lot of presents on me, including money. So all that money I would put aside, and to me it was like lottery money, right? And I put it aside, and when I take my trips, I would go to the university, close to the university at a coffee shop, and suss out all the students. And if I saw a face that I thought was a good person to travel with, I would approach them, introduce myself, and ask them if they would be able to get some time off school, time away from their family, and if it would be in accordance that they could take the trip with me, and I could teach them, and they would teach me.
Oh, that's wonderful. I mean, and how was the reaction most of the time from these young people?
Well, I remember my friend Tesfai, his name is, he was very surprised. So he went to his family, they agreed. We went to the school, he agreed. We spent 2 weeks together. It was the best time for him and me, because I learned a lot more about his country. And another reason why I like doing that with the students, I can trust them and they trust me.
Which country was that?
Well, I've done it in different countries
All right.
besides Ethiopia, but in particular I did it twice in Ethiopia. And the reason being is because people tend to feel that because you're a tourist, you've got a lot of money, especially if it's this color. Like in Africa, they have this idea that white people are all rich. And of course I explained to them that that's not true. And then slowly they understand, because, you know, back then in many of these instances that I'm talking about, there was no internet back then. You know, internet was just starting. So the stories that they were getting was so false. Even some of the books that they had in school would say these things. If a foreigner comes from another country, he'll have lots of money in his pocket, and false information. So I would try and educate them and say, look, not everybody's the same. And I'd explain to them, you know, I've worked hard all my life. I don't have that much. I'm in the same boat as you, so, you know, you must respect and not overcharge me something, because when they see tourists and foreigners, they want to charge too much, and that's not correct.
That's true. One of your visions, one of your philosophies has been to try and help others. You say that's a joy to behold. Has it always been the case with you? To try to help others, whether being in your job, whether being an adventurer, a traveler, has it always been the case with you? To try and help others one way or the other?
Yes, I think the reason why I've got that in my heart is because I came from a poor family and saw how life was and struggling. And when I was 10, I had my first job, babysitting. And when I was 11, I delivered 500 newspapers after school. So that was quite difficult doing that. But I had my own money, and I paid all my own bills, bought all my clothes. I even paid rent to my parents.
Oh, that's great. Speaking of your parents, the first time when you decided to leave the country or leave your household and the city and go and travel to another city or another country, what was the reaction from your parents and friends?
My father was just overjoyed.
Really?
My father was just so happy with me traveling everywhere. He gave me the biggest compliment. He said, even though you never got a university education, you are more educated than people with 10 degrees. He says, you know, I'm very well educated. And he said, with all the travels you've done, you've learned so much more. And I agree with them. My mother was always very adamant. How can you do this, she'd say. How can you walk into a stranger's home? You might turn around and get hurt. I said, Mom, you got to have, you know, you have to have a little bit of trust in people. And I do, and I've also been quite fortunate that I'm quite good at reading people and feeling them out in such a way whether they're good or bad.
How does one read people, especially when one is in a different country, in a different community? What are the main rules to read people's minds and to know whether they're good or bad?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think it just might be something in me. I'll give you an instance. It's terrible, actually. I was in Brazil with my husband, and like I said, he's not a traveler at all. So I said, let's go on this trip. And he's been to maybe about 12 countries with me. And the year before, we met this lady named Peggy in Costa Rica. And she would go to Brazil every year for the carnival. So we said to her, we'll go after the carnival and meet up and stay at your place. Well, for some reason, when I went there, the guy that would open the door, the doorman, I looked at this guy and I just had this reaction that this person was really bad. He just seemed too overly friendly, number one. And when people have that kind of overly friendly, that you have to watch out a little bit. And I looked at my friend, I said, you know what? I said, I think we should phone the police. I said, because I really feel in my heart that this guy's murdered people.
Oh.
I just had this awful, deep feeling. So we spent 2 weeks there. My friend had this big party, wanted us to go to this party, and the U.S. ambassador was coming, and I said, no, we've got to get back to work. And I told her, I says, look, be careful with that guy. So I left. 2 days later, she phoned me. She said, Denise, I'll never say you're crazy again. She said the guy was wanted for 3 murders, and he ended up murdering the man that was living in the penthouse, who was originally from Brazil, but living in the U.S., who was a famous lawyer. And he stabbed him to death. And I even told Peggy, I said, you know what, he's going to do something bad again. And I don't know why I felt that, but something just clicked.
All right.
And you know, especially his friendliness.
Maybe it's because you meet so many different people of different nationalities, of different ethnic backgrounds, and you, with time, with the amount of people that you meet, you start to get an idea about what they're about. When you talk to them, when you see it in their eyes, in their smile, in their gestures, the way they talk to you, the way they respond.
Yes, it's true. And I always find if somebody can't look me straight in the eye, then something's not correct. I've met like evil people like that to the most, sometimes though, I must say, for instance, I was in Solomon Islands a couple of years ago, and I ended up meeting 7 gangs out of the 11 gangs there.
Really?
Yes.
How did that happen?
Just a fluke. This house I was staying in, one of the guys was a bad boy, and his uncle was a pastor. So his uncle was trying to rehab him into
reform him.
Yeah, reform him into doing better things. And I got into talking to this young man. And the whole family was quite pleased because they could see I was trying to get him out of this, and the gangs as well. So his name was Modex. And he ended up introducing me to these, and he was the type of guy that he was like head of all of them. There was like a member of each gang that was the head, but he was like the head of all. So it was good for me because when you mix with people like that, they watch out for you. Then you're not going to get robbed. So I just got really lucky that they took a liking to me. And they call it storying in that country.
All right.
S-T-O-R-Y-I-N-G.
That's a very strange word, story.
Yes, I thought so too. So they said, oh, please tell us all your storying. So I would sit and talk to these guys for hours about all my different trips, and they were just so fascinating.
These guys who belong to gangs.
Yeah.
All right.
So then I would also tell them, look, you guys can clean up your act, not cause all these, problems and being petty thieves. I said, you have 2 hands, you can make beautiful carvings. I said, your country is known for it, and they do. You should see the carvings they make. Beautiful things. Boxes, all kinds of dolphins, like everything. Gorgeous wood. So I said, you guys can do that. And they said, yes, Aunt Denise. I'd tell them to call me Aunt Denise. Yeah.
Oh, that's a very sweet name, Aunt Denise. I mean, I'll maybe also call you Aunt Denise by the end of the show. Denise, you also have this, I wouldn't say knack, but this wonderful habit of helping the poor, especially poor kids. You've had that during your different travels. Do you remember some interesting experiences with kids when you helped them out? How was the family's
Yes.
reaction? How was the kids' reaction?
In the Republic of Congo, I brought 2 big boxes with me, and I gave out to 212 children. I wish I could have given out more, but that's all I could bring with me, you know? And they actually did a little video. It was through couch surfing that I had met, that had been in contact with this person. And he hosted me, and he had was in this organization that started in US and Canada. I can't remember the name of it, and said that it would be his pleasure to introduce me to the members and gather as many kids as possible and do a little filming, because they were just starting up this organization. So they wanted to do the filming in that, and me give everything out to the kids. All the children were awesome, just beautiful kids. So each one got a pen and pencil and eraser, because I would always bring those sort of things for the kids, for school. And I was very fortunate too with my job that the Postmaster General at the time that I'd met, I asked him, I says, look, all these pens and pencils that are returned to sender, that cannot be returned to sender because they're third-class mail, the company would move. You know, they would do a logo on the pen. They would mail it to that store or company, and the company had moved. So these would all get thrown away. So I said, instead of us throwing them away, I said, why don't you just let me collect them, and I'll bring them to all the poor countries in the world and distribute them. And he says, yeah, okay, no problem.
All right. Denise, tell me one thing. When you visit a country and you go through different websites, whether it be Couchsurfing or other websites, or you get to know people who know people, and through this network you get to understand where to go and who to meet and where to stay. But isn't there always that apprehension, what if something happens? Are you afraid when you visit a country? Or are you never afraid? Are you always gung-ho about visiting a country?
I'm very gung-ho about visiting a country. I do my research before I go, especially with Lonely Planet. Lonely Planet, I find, is one of the best guidebooks to go by. And my husband's always very, he's always a little afraid of me going to these places, especially when I went to Mali last year and I was in Niger last year. But I take this type of attitude just when I'm getting off the plane, especially in Africa, because Africa is a different kettle of fish than the rest of the world. Africa is the hardest to travel.
And why is that?
The infrastructure. There's less transport in some of these countries. There's maybe about 10 countries now that have good system, but I'm talking like years ago. I'd sometimes have to wait 2 days to get transport to get me to the next place.
Oh.
Oh, yes. Very remote.
All right.
And see, the thing is, in those countries, there's not that many cars and buses. So they would wait until the bus was filled before it would go. There was never, a timetable, no schedule. So you'd always be hoping that you wouldn't have to wait 4 days.
All right.
You know?
And what about the different kinds of food that you eat in different places? You can eat anything, or do you always ask your host or the place where you eat, oh, I can't eat spicy, or can't eat this kind of food or this meat, or you're always open to suggestions?
I'm so lucky that I can eat anything, and I love trying everything.
All right.
And I've had the pleasure of trying many different interesting dishes. 2 places I visited. One was Brazil. I almost died in Brazil.
How did that happen? Tell us a bit about that.
That was unbelievable. I went swimming, and I'm not a very good swimmer, right on Copacabana Beach. It was during the week, I don't know, maybe 10 in the morning, I think it was. And all of a sudden, this wave takes me out. One person was walking on the beach and saved my life. And the person that saved my life, his name was Icaro Passos. I tried to Google this person. I mean, this is like 30 years ago. I can't find this person. His dad was the admiral to the Navy of Brazil that saved my life. And we became friends after he ended up rescuing me, And he took me to a football game and invited me to his home. that was the best. They had, I think, 10 servants. They ended up cooking like 50 national dishes for me. I felt so blessed trying all these different types of dishes of Brazil. Absolutely delicious. And his mom was an excellent cook, along with all the ladies that helped do all this cooking. And I felt so honored, you know, that they did all this great cooking for me. Then another time was in Ghana. And when I was hitchhiking, I do a lot of hitchhiking as well. And this couple were very nice and gave me a lift. And she let me try all kinds of different dishes as well that they had cooked up for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's brilliant. And you've never been afraid of hitchhiking. We see so many different horror stories regarding hitchhikers. And
Well, there's a way of
experience.
hitchhiking too.
Oh, and what is
yes.
that way? Tell us.
The best way is to be at gas stations, petrol station.
All right.
Yeah. And that way you can suss out the person and see what they're like.
All right.
You know, that you know, if you feel that they're going to be okay. And I always try and do it with couples. You know, if a couple are in the car together, then I'll ask. The hitchhiking, wow. In Brazil, I did a lot of hitchhiking. I hitchhiked, I think it was like 10,000 kilometers, all by myself. And that's when I was trying to get money wired to me from home because there was no ATM machines back then. And I decided I'm going to do this come hell or high water, you know? So I hitchhiked from Rio de Janeiro right up to Belém. These two truckers that gave me a ride, they dropped me off at 10 o'clock at night because they're going this way and I'm going the other direction. And they said to me, well, where are we going to drop you, you know? He says, there's nothing here. I says, I know. I got a great idea, I said. Drop me at the police station. I said, I'll be safe there. They says, well, police aren't so good. I said, nah, I'm a foreigner. I'm sure I'll be fine. So I went into the police station and I asked them, I said, I know there's no place to stay. I said, can I pitch my tent here? So they let me sleep right in the prison cell. And they they fed me in the morning.
Well, that's some experience.
Yes.
Being a tourist and inside a prison cell.
Yeah, but they kept the door open for
All
me.
right.
Yeah.
All right. That's nice.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of your country of origin, that is Canada. If one wants to go to Canada, what are the places that one should visit? Absolutely, as a traveler, as a tourist.
Oh, you could. There's so many beautiful things to see. I've been very fortunate. I've been all the way up to the north. The only places I have not been is Labrador and Northwest Territories. And the reason why I didn't get up there, because the weather, that young girl that was with me, the German girl, her and I planned the whole trip with my brand new electric car that I bought, my Chevrolet Bolt. So we had to change all the plans, and then she said, let's go to New York. She really wanted to see that, so we ended up going there, and besides her visiting part of Canada. The East Coast is beautiful, Prince Edward Island. Nova Scotia, absolutely beautiful. Newfoundland, the people are awesome. Very open, very friendly. You can, you know, go into a place and start talking to somebody. The next thing you know, they'll put their arm around you and say, come to my home.
Oh.
They're very friendly, yes.
All right.
In Newfoundland especially, very open people. And Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and part of Ontario, and Alberta, the land is quite flat.
All right.
People tend not to really want to go there. But it's well worth going to because it's very beautiful, the scenery, to see all these the wheat growing. And also in Winnipeg, many people do love visiting there because, see, Winnie the Pooh is from Winnipeg.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know a lot of people don't know that.
Okay. Maybe
Yes.
that's why Winnie the Pooh, Winnipeg.
Correct. And if you Google it, in the Wikipedia, it tells you the whole story about it.
Oh,
Yes.
all right. I'll do that.
Yeah. So, yes, Winnipeg's very interesting. I have an aunt that lives there. Alberta's beautiful too. The Rocky Mountains, Jasper, Banff, you must visit. Up in the north where the glacier ice fields are. My father took me all to these places when I was young. And I was there on Lake Louise. I was there before tourism even started. So now, you know, it's quite different, but it's still, the infrastructure for the tourism in Canada is very, very together.
All right.
People
Well, I think that's very important as an industry. any country, whether it be Canada or the US or the West or the East or Africa, needs to put its tourism industry properly in place so that people come, and that's how not only do they bring money, but they also bring a kind of closeness between their country and the country that they visit. Now, speaking of that, you're here now in Pakistan. Is this your first trip to Pakistan?
No, it's actually my second.
All right.
And I want to tell everybody.
Tell me the first time. When did you come to Pakistan for the first time?
About 4 months ago.
Oh, really? Just 4 months ago?
Oh, yes.
And what prompted you? What was the fascination for you to come to Pakistan?
The mountains, the north, what I was reading about it, I thought, it sounds so beautiful. And my husband's so wonderful because he's better at Googling things and finding information for me. So I thought, I really have to see this. And I thought to myself, all the hype that they say about Pakistan, that it's, you know, not safe. On the contrary, completely safe. Now, the reason why I say that, when I was up in the north, when I was on the plane, I made friends with this lovely lady, Sultana. She invites me to her home, and I'm so happy I've made this friend. I'm sitting beside this lovely lady who is very well respected in the whole community in Chitral. She's from England, and she's the principal of the school, and she stepped into the shoes of the man who's 100 years old that was a previous principal of the school. So she took over, and she's been up there for 5 years. So when I got off the plane, I didn't even notice that in the corner was tucked away the little tourist information. So I walk right out to the parking lot, and the whole family's there meeting my friend and very happy to host me. And then this man comes out and he says, "Excuse me, you're a tourist." And I said, "Is there a problem?" He goes, "Oh, yes, madam." He says, "You cannot stay with these people." I said, "What?" I said, "But they've invited me." He says, we want to make sure that you're okay and that you have a bodyguard with you. He said, "We were told that, you know, there might be some incidents around, and we just want to make sure that you're protected." I said, "You're kidding me." I says, "I've been 190 countries. I've never had to have somebody look after me." I says, "I've always gone on my own." I said, "Is this normal?" He says, "Oh, yes. Our government wants to make sure that all you people are safe." I says, "Wow." I says, "I feel very honored." I phoned my husband. He was so surprised too. So I thought, here I go to countries that are so dangerous. Government would never even think of helping me. And yet, your government, so lovely, and make sure that I'm okay. And I had the nicest person with me, Commando, that I became friends with.
All right.
Yes.
That's great.
And and I went to different places up in the north. I went to Kalash. That was absolutely
You visited the people there and their unique tribe and their unique traditions as well?
And I even met, I know his name, oh my goodness. I meant to make a note of it. Anyway, he was one of the first guides up there and has his own little hotel and does guiding. And the nicest person ever. And I said to him, I'm hoping to come back and see if I can promote Pakistan as to what a great country it is, how wonderful the people are, and that it is safe to travel. And people, what I love about this place is that even young people, they see that I'm traveling by myself. Can I help you with anything? Now you go to other countries that are more advanced. They would never think of even doing that. So this really touches me.
All right. So the
you know,
first time when you went, you visited the mountainous areas like Chitral, you visit the Kalash people. So this time, what is your intention? What are the places that you have visited or you will be visiting in the coming days?
Well, actually tonight I'm leaving for home, but thanks to my wonderful host, he took me to Lahore, and I had the most wonderful day yesterday. We went to that famous mosque.
And the Badshahi Mosque?
Yes. And I was really happy to pray there for 1 hour.
All right.
And his wife and sister-in-law were with me, and we did the prayers together, and it was quite lovely. And just looking around of all the beauty of the building, you know, and it's so old, and it just strikes you as like how it was back then.
So What is the first thing that you see when you come to a country like Pakistan? You see Pakistan when you ask other people abroad, and I'm sure your family and friends have also said there's a certain connotation, impression about the country that, of course, once you're here, because I've talked to so many other people, ambassadors as well, they said before we came here, we had a totally different impression. Once we come here, we don't want to leave. We want to stay as much as we can because the people are nice, the place is nice, and the general environment is very cordial, and it is very friendly to be in. Has that been the same experience for you?
The same experience.
Because I've asked people, the tourists, that some of them had the impressions that the visa takes a long time. It never, you never had that issue.
I think the reason why, though, is because the man that asked me the questions, he asked what my interests were, and I told him that, and I'm hoping, you know, maybe I could find some place that they would like me to teach English for free, and all I'm going to ask for is a free bed and pay the rest of my way. And he said, oh, are you into hiking as well? I said, oh, yes, I love hiking. So he said, okay, yeah. And I said, I hope you give me the multiple visa, and like, you know, for a couple of years. And he said, well, it'll be for a year. And I said, well, that's better than nothing. So a couple of days later, I picked up the visa and my passport, and I was on my way. What also brought me here, I had met this young man that I did this lecture for in Slovakia University. This young man, I know his father is a member of parliament in the EU, and I met him by chance through another friend on when I had a problem on a train trying to find some place to stay in Slovakia. So he's in university, and he asked me, he says, you know, your travels are so interesting. He says, why don't you come and do this lecture? So I said, sure. So that's how I ended up meeting this nice young man by the name of Ali Khan. And he said he had family here, and I'd be more than welcome to come stay.
All right.
So that's how I ended up
meeting your current host, who's here in Islamabad.
Yes, because Ali's been living in Europe for about 10 years.
All right.
He's still going to school.
Tell us about the food in Pakistan. Which are the foods that you love?
I tried this dish that was so good. I don't know the name of it. This chicken dish with this fantastic sauce that you eat with bread.
It must be chicken kadhai, because this is something that we eat a lot here.
Yeah, it's really delicious.
And the spice doesn't bother you at all?
No, I like spicy, actually.
All right.
And especially the raita. Oh, the yogurt. You guys have really good yogurt.
Because we mix that with a lot of different spices. We put sometimes a bit of cucumber and onion in it, and a bit of green pepper. So that enhances the taste of that
Well,
yogurt.
I find that you have a very healthy diet because you eat a lot of cucumber, tomato, onion. It's very good. And a lot of good fruit.
Oh, yes. I mean, the amount of fruit that we have in Pakistan is unwarranted. We have one of the best mangoes in the world as well. Did you try the mangoes?
Yes, it's my favorite.
All right. What other fruits have you tried here?
The mango, of course. I tried, I can't remember the name of it, but I hadn't tried it before. It looks like a tomato.
All right.
But it's not a tomato, it's a fruit with a bigger green stem in the middle.
The Japanese fruit, something that we call the Japanese fruit, I think, over here. It has the same texture as a tomato.
Yes.
It has a bigger green leaf on top of it.
Yes.
It's called the Japanese fruit, yes.
Yeah, that was quite delicious.
Great. What about the desserts? Have you had some of the desserts?
I got really lucky last night at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Really?
Yes. We stopped at one of his friend's places, and she had made this really good rice pudding.
All right.
And that was
Firni, I think we sometimes
really
call it.
And then these coconut cookies. Oh, they were excellent.
All right.
I love coconut.
All right. How is your interaction with the Pakistani women or the men or the children when you meet them? Any apprehension being a woman in Pakistan?
Not at all. Do you know what? That's one thing I really love about this country. The men have total respect. Yes.
All right. All right. You've never had any issues whatsoever?
No issue at all.
All right.
No.
So now tonight you move back to your country. What will you take from Pakistan in your second visit when you go to Canada? What will you tell people that you meet in Canada or in other countries of the world about your 2 trips to Pakistan?
Not to be afraid of this place at all. Everything that's portrayed on the media is completely wrong. The people are really wonderful, very helpful, and there's nothing to worry about.
The places?
And you know, for instance, there's more problems in England, in London, than there is here in Pakistan. I can walk down the street, I don't feel uncomfortable at all by myself.
All right.
I might have somebody come up and say, is there something I can help, or ask where I'm from.
All
You
right.
know, I'll say, welcome to Pakistan. I've had people do that as well, which
Great.
is very nice.
That's
Yeah.
sweet. And whenever you're in, you've had an issue anywhere in Pakistan, people have always come up to help
Yes,
you.
yes.
All right.
Like when I first arrived, usually they see me with a bank machine, because I'm very bad with ATMs to begin with. So they were so helpful with that. Then when I had to do the telephone, very helpful. Yeah.
Why? I think what should also be a good idea, as you've done in other countries, is to come and teach English the next time you're here. Try to contact some local schools in some village.
Oh, I have
in
the
Pakistan.
contacts.
You have?
Yes.
All right.
But I had such a short time this time.
But next time, inshallah, I hope that you'll come and you'll stay for a longer time, get to know Pakistan a bit more, visit Multan, visit Sindh,
Yes, I will.
visit Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, because that is also a beautiful
Yeah.
place. I once went, there were houses that are 150 years old that have no fans whatsoever, but the system of ventilation
Is
is
the best.
perfect. In summers, you have
Yeah.
the wind that flows through
Yeah.
without any issue. And you should really try to see how the architecture was made, because there are some wonderful places.
I love architecture. Probably because my dad being an engineer as well.
Oh.
But I really like old buildings. So that's why I was so happy to come here and my friend take me to Lahore and see the fort and all these different historical places.
Well, that's wonderful. So the next time you need to visit the rest of the places, and you need to get in touch with me as well and let me know how your experience was. We'll get you back on the show and ask you more about how it was and how these 3 or 4 or more visits, because you've, in the 190 countries that you visited some country 20 times, isn't it? Which are the countries that you visited around 20 times?
England.
All right.
Yeah,
Why
because
so?
I have relatives there, my
Oh.
cousins, and that's why they like to see me and I love to see them. Bermuda 20 times,
Okay.
or maybe more. I lost count. It'll be my 10th time back to Nepal.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember now. I think Thailand's about 15 times.
All right.
About 20 times to Hong Kong, because that's a hub, and for the airplane and stuff. What other places have I been? U.S. many times, because also making connections for flights. I've been 8 times to Mexico, 3 times hitchhiking all the way through in different trips. One trip I hitchhiked all the way from Central America and Nicaragua, all the way up to Mexico City, through this, through Panama, Nicaragua. Where else? What's the other ones? El Salvador, though, man. I can't believe some of these places I've been, I can't believe I make it back in one piece, because it's just, some of these places.
I think it's your resolution of visiting places as a traveler. It's something that also radiates through you when you meet people, when you visit the places. People aren't apprehensive of you. They are more friendly because this is what you show as well as a person.
But I also try and never show that I'm scared. That, be on the same level. Especially, I can remember one time I was a bit afraid. It was in Serbia. Or not Serbia, it was in Serbia. I couldn't believe it. The place was so kind of gray. The people were so sad, due to the war. And the war had stopped, I guess, maybe 5 years. And I was in this car trying to get over to this hostel. And it was a taxi. So I didn't think it was a shared taxi. All of a sudden, 4 guys get in. And that I didn't like. And these were big men, So I thought, I hope nothing happens, because I prefer, like if I take a shared taxi, I never take a shared taxi with just all men. That's not a good idea in places that you don't know. So I got to my destination and everything, and it was
All right,
okay.
All right, no issues whatsoever.
Yeah, no
but
issues.
You were a bit afraid, but you never showed it.
No.
All right. What are the
But they were surprised that I was by myself,
Well, that is why also maybe they kept their distance.
Yeah.
Tell me one last thing, because I know that you have to prepare yourself to go home tonight. what are the basic rules that a tourist and a traveler needs to abide by, especially when one is short of money? Because when one is a tourist, there's always that idea that people have in other countries, oh, if she is a tourist, then he must be loaded with money. Nobody thinks that you can visit places around the world with a small budget. What are the rules and regulations to follow with that? What should one do to visit the world and yet under a small budget?
Well, I'm probably the first lady, or not the first lady, but the type of lady that's slept in more airports than anybody in the world. I've slept in pretty well every major airport. It's the safest place. If you have no money, that's the place to go. Make sure you're underneath the security camera. Then you won't have an issue. Because I almost did get killed in
Really?
Charles de Gaulle Airport.
In France,
In France.
of all places.
I missed the connection because the Toronto flight came in 8 hours late into Paris, and I was on my way to Cameroon. I meet this very nice gentleman, and I asked him, "Are you going to be here all night?" And he said, "Yes, I am." I said, "Can you do me a favor and watch over me?" I said, "Because this airport's dangerous." He says, "How do you know this airport's dangerous?" I says, "This is going to be my 4th time stuck at this airport." I said, "It's the only airport in the world that street people sleep." He says, "What?" And this guy was from Marseille, and he was a policeman. So he says, "You know, I'm a policeman, I don't have to worry and all this." And I said to him, "Look, you see that camera there?" I said, "Let's just move the chair to the underneath the camera." I said, he says, "Oh, you don't have to." He says, "You'll be fine with me." I said, "Just to be safe." I said, "Because I've met many of the street people in this airport, so I know." So he agreed to move it. I'm in this deep sleep. All of a sudden I wake up to a German Shepherd in my face, right, like that. And I look in these dogs' eyes and I'm thinking, this dog's trying to save me. And I look up and I couldn't believe 2 police in riot gear with big rifles. And just over from there was a man, tall black man, handcuffed, and a knife on the ground in front. And they caught it on camera that he was behind this petition that we didn't see. And he waited until everything was quiet, came around, and he was going to stab the guy, and they got there in time to save both of us.
Oh.
And that was the closest, the last time that I ever came close to death. Because I have been really lucky, and I've gone through floods, typhoons, hurricanes, and I've survived them all.
All right, but you've had the resolution to go
Oh,
and
yes.
visit and travel
Yep.
and understand how different people live, how different cultures work, and you want to, you're curious by nature.
Yes.
That is what makes you move around the
Yes.
world.
Also, how to save money that I've done is, if you're really on a shoestring budget, I've gone to universities and asked to stay there. That's much cheaper. And also Red Cross, volunteer at the Red Cross. So when I was in the country of Tuvalu, I ended up working at the Red Cross for a little bit, and then I ended up meeting the Prime Minister of the country, and I pitched my tent in his living room.
Really?
Yes. And I also had really great luck in Madagascar that I met the princess whose father was the last king of Madagascar. And I brought her some maple syrup, and I also brought the Prime Minister of Tuvalu maple syrup, and they really loved it. And the princess, oh, she was very interesting. The stories and the pictures I saw of her with all the kings and queens around the world. And she had been also married to a French ambassador. So her stories were so interesting. And I told her my stories as well. And she said, "Oh, Denise, I like you so much. I have a king-size bed. Now you sleep here." And she had a cat that looked like Garfield.
Oh.
And the Garfield slept in the middle, and she slept on the other side. But she was such a graceful lady. And when her and I would go out with her sister, because the king had two daughters, they were still respected after all those years that there was no king and that French had taken over. Yeah.
All right, all right. Great. Denise, thank you very much to have given us such a wonderful insight of so many things, so many countries that one does not get through talking to even ambassadors or envoys or other people, because you have a first-hand experience of talking to the people of that country, and also on how to visit different places and travel the world around on a small budget and still be able to see the whole world, experience the whole world. and go back and return to your country in one piece, as they say, despite all the fact. I hope to see you soon, one day in Pakistan. I am there if you want any advice from me as far as visiting different places. And if I have the privilege of being your guide one day, I will do that.
Oh, that would
Denise,
be lovely.
So Denise, all the best for
you.
your trip, and I wish you a safe journey back to your country, and I wish to see you back again pretty soon.
I'll be back.
So ladies and gentlemen, that was Denise Kowalski, a rare tourist of the world, a woman of the world, in fact, I might call her, in fact, instead of a Canadian citizen, because she's a citizen of the world, has gone to 190 countries, has talked to, met, interacted with, lived in houses from all these different countries, and has loved the experience and wants to continue. This is the drive that one needs to have when one wants to travel around the world, not be apprehensive. And of course, she is also that ambassador, I would say, who changes the perception of different countries, including a country like Pakistan, to the people of the world. We wish to see more people coming to Pakistan that way, and I hope whoever watches this will get that inkling to come visit Pakistan at least once, to know how beautiful this country is and how wonderful the people are as well. Omar Khalid bids you farewell from this episode of Diplomatic Enclave. We'll be back same time, same channel next week. Take care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz. And finally, Denise, safe travels to Canada, and hope to see you very soon in Pakistan.
Definitely.